Hey y'all, this is Whitney, and welcome back to another episode of Spastic Chatter. If this is your first time watching Spastic Chatter, it is a platform meant to feature those in the Cerebral Palsy community. I get together weekly with individuals with CP like myself to have an uncensored chat, if you will, about what it's like living with this type of disability. And this week I have Roy Jones, and he wrote in wanting to be a guest, and he's pretty awesome, so I agree. So I wanted to have him on the show. He's a YouTuber, and I'll let Roy introduce himself, and then we'll get on to the conversation.
Yeah, so as she said, thank you so much for having me. First off, my name is Roy Jones, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I also have spastic cerebral palsy. Um, and so I've created a YouTube channel to kind of share my daily life and provide educational videos and help educate others so they can be their own self advocate.
That's awesome. So I kind of want since it's about self advocacy, I kind of want to take it back to your childhood growing up with CP. Like how was your childhood like growing up with CP? I know that's a weird question because when I'm asked that, I'm like it's just a normal childhood. But is there anything that stands out like about you being a self advocate or like?
So, for me, I grew up in more of a fragmented household, if you would. So, I had to learn to speak for myself because there wasn't always someone to speak for me. And then, kind of later on in life, my teenage years, my grandparents raised me, and so yeah, I mean, I've always had to kind of be my own advocate and fight for what I need and what I want.
That's awesome. I think you brought up a unique perspective that I haven't come across on the show because there I've interviewed. You're my 50. You're my You're gonna be my 50th episode, and in that time span, there's really not been someone that had become their own advocate at such a young age. We usually rely on our support people, So that is a very good point to make. That is that not everyone not everyone has that support system, and they have to learn how to advocate for themselves and create a support system, if that makes sense. So can you think of a time where you at a young age you had to advocate for yourself? Does this time stand out for you?
Um, I wouldn't say. Um, I mean, I remember going to the doctors by myself at 13, 14. So I mean I kind of had to become an adult very quickly.
Yeah. Do you think they took you seriously?
Yes, I do. In that time, yes, because they knew what my situation was. So um, they knew kind of what I was up against. So um, they've I've always been mature beyond my years, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say. Um, yeah. Um, One thing that's unique about me as well is um, a lot of individuals I know uh, have more of a handicap accessible home, and I never had that. So I had to learn how to navigate around uh, in a regular home,
Yeah.
which has helped me now. Because
Yeah.
even where I'm at now, it's not handicap accessible. Um, but that's okay because it keeps me mobile and it allows me to be able to go pretty much anywhere I need to go and know how to navigate around.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, it's kind of like a bonus, but not a bonus because it allowed you to like develop the skills to get around wherever you need to go, and like that's very cool.
Correct. Correct. I mean, if I always tell people, if I make my house handicap accessible, like totally accessible, if I go to my friend's house who may not be handicap accessible, I wouldn't have the ability or skills to navigate.
Yeah, that's very true. But I see that you have one of you. I would call it. I don't know what you call it, but right now I'm gonna refer to it as an advantage. That's just me being like, uh, I see that you're in a you're in a manual wheelchair, so like you have that advantage as to like someone like me who has to use a power wheelchair, and if I was stuck and if I had to use a manual chair, I wouldn't be as functional. So like that is so
So, yeah. So a very fun fact about me. Yes, I have a manual chair, but I also use something called a smart drive.
yeah,
Which, if you're familiar with those, um, I actually have the upgrade to that. It's through a different manufacturer, but it's called Smooth. It's only been in the U.S. less than a year. So Smooth is SMOOV, and it allows me to attach a portable motor to my chair and provide power if I need it. So
that's
that is
awesome.
unique.
So like well, this is gonna get off topic, but I don't really care. 'Cause I'm curious. So how does are your hands affected by CP? Is it just real?
They are the more so the left hand is affected, left hand and left arm, and then
So so
I have some effects in my neck.
so does your like I've never tried the smart drive because I can't. Does it? Does your when you're with your hands affected? Does that affect the smart drive? Your capability to maneuver the smart drive and all that stuff?
So when I was on the first smart drive that I had, um, it required a wristband, and because my left hand was slower to respond to like tapping the wheel and stuff, I would just have to wear the wristband on my right hand, or right wrist, and that one I could tap fine. Now the smart drive system I have, there's no wristband at all, and there's actually like a mouse scroll wheel that attaches to my chair that allows me to adjust the speed.
That's awesome. I was just curious about that. So getting back to the getting back to the conversation of self advocacy, and like you were saying that you kind of like didn't have a support group growing up. Did you create as you were like growing up and like you wanted your grandparents care and like you would like just you matured and got older? Did you create your own support group like by friends or like
Yes, I would say my biggest support group was my friends, my grandparents, and believe it or not, my teachers. My teachers really invested a lot of time with me, who I'm fortunate enough to still today have a very close relationship with.
that's awesome. So so like in school when we used to we go I keep going back to this but we kind of go to our parents to like advocate for us for like in schools and things. So when you had to have like accommodations for like for school, or how did that go? How did you go about getting your accommodations? Did you just go up to your teacher and like take care of it yourself or?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously they tried to reach out to my mother and whatnot, but as I got into like middle school and high school, it was more I reach out and tell them what I need, or a lot of my teachers they would just advocate for me as well, you know,
Mhm.
um, and just go from there.
Were you in were you in, were you in like gen ed classes or
I was in a multi handicap class, specifically because I needed physical therapy and
yeah,
occupational therapy. Um, so for that purpose, I was in a multi handicap class.
that's awesome. Okay, so getting out we're gonna like move away from school and things like that. What did you do after high school? Did you go on to college or what were your plans?
So, because of the environment that I grew up in, um, the as soon as I turned 18, the day I turned 18, I had my stuff packed up. I moved out of my mother's house and moved in with my grandparents, um, which I graduated in 2005. And then in 2006, I took my first job at a call center. And so, and then from there, I actually have lived on my own between living with my, you know, with my grandparents. I've lived in my own apartment, all, you know, and I've pretty much lived in my own place, um, all my life at this point.
That's awesome. I can relate to that because I've been on my own since I like 18. So like I can relate to to being on our own, being independent. Um, so what kind of got you into doing YouTube?
Um, so I, in 2012, I took a job at a school where I got to work with students of all types, students with disabilities and whatnot. And then I had my own IT management company later on. And then I've had a lot of issues dealing with insurance, and they would rather pay for all kinds of medication, but they wouldn't pay for like physical therapy, acupuncture, massage therapy, things like that, which is to me is completely backwards. I think we're doing the wrong thing.
Yep,
And so I realized, I said, you know what, someone needs to speak out about this. Um, and something this actually be the first place I've ever mentioned this. Um, at one point in my life, young adult life, I was on 24 different medications. I'm now fortunate to be only on five. Um, if I would have known then what I know now, I wouldn't have let the doctors put me on all that medicine.
yeah,
But I'm not saying medicine's bad, but I think that there are other things that we need to look at before we just start throwing drugs at people.
exactly.
And I just wanted to speak out about the insurance companies.
That's all.
It's backwards.
So did you to get off to kind of tie it together to get off those all that medication? Did like I'm sure that took a lot of self advocating to your doctors. Like were they like really receptive to to what you wanted to like to your needs? Or did it take
So,
convincing?
so the doctors I had at the time were not. I can tell you that as soon as I told them I went off of this, you know, a couple of certain medications, they said, you know, we can't take you off of this. You wouldn't survive. And I said, okay, if you won't, I will. And I took myself off of it. Now, disclaimer: I don't recommend anyone
Yeah,
just stopping medications, because the medication that I stopped is very deadly. But I took myself off of it. And then the physician that I have now, she actually met me in an inpatient hospital stay. Who, when she met me, she was like, I can tell you're miserable, and I want to see you get off this medication, get off a lot of these meds. And I said, will you be my doctor? And she was like, I see geriatric patients, but I'm happy to take your case. And then from there, she helped me get off all the other medications.
That's awesome. And it's like Roy said, it's important to note that this is his story. Before you, if you're watching this, before you go and get off all your medicine, like make sure that you're doing the right thing for you. And so we're not telling you to go to medicine is bad, medicine is good, but yeah, yeah, but just a little disclaimer in there. So what does your YouTube journey look like? What's your favorite videos to post?
I think educational videos. Just sharing kind of my experiences in hopes that someone else can learn from it and be inspired by them. I've recently started doing more vlogging, allowing people kind of into my daily life, which is very different for me because I'm used to being that private person.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be able for people to see that just because we have a disability or we might be in a wheelchair, we're normal human beings. The wheelchair is just how we get around.
Yeah. And I like to add that we're nobody's inspiration. Like if I inspire you, cool. But what is that inspiration? What does that inspiration do? I'd rather motivate you than inspire. Like, because motivation takes action, in my opinion.
Yes.
If that makes any sense at all. But that's my two bits to that comment. But yeah, I've seen your video, like your vlogging type videos, and like you've been going. It seems like you've been going a lot of places. But obviously, has COVID played a factor into your travel?
Yes. COVID has definitely slowed my travel down a lot, as it has for everybody.
Exactly.
COVID has taken a toll on mental health, just as it has for everybody. But the thing to remember is that things will get better. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, what kind of have you had like positive feedback from your videos?
I have. I'm actually surprised. I used to be very afraid of the camera, but the thing to remember is just be yourself. There's another YouTuber that I follow and that you're probably familiar with, but she kind of watching her videos and just kind of chat.
Emily?
Yes.
Yes, I had her as a guest.
Yes, and just kind of chatting with her, has really let me know, hey, you can just be yourself. I used to be so nervous in front of the camera, so.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I used to be all nervous also. If you watch my very first episode, like it was so like rehearsed. Like I had my scripts that I wanted to read, and then like as time went on, I was like, screw this, it's gonna be real, it's gonna be authentic. I'm not doing a script anymore. Like wherever the conversation flows, it flows, and I think that's so much more enjoyable to watch. As if the person doesn't care at all. We're just there to like you said, show people what that we're just normal human beings living our life.
Yes.
So very
And
cool.
I think too, like I've said before, um, I feel like people see that we have a disability and they think, oh, like they must be so miserable or they're helpless. And in all
Yep,
honesty, again, we're just normal human beings, just trying
exactly.
just trying to live in this thing called life.
Yep, exactly. So at the end of every episode, Roy, I ask my guests if they have any advice for others. So, do you have any advice for people who are struggling to be their own self advocate, or just any advice in general?
um, well, there's a saying that I go by for for a lot of things. Um, your small act of kindness could be the one thing that keeps someone else holding on. So just remember, be kind to one another. And if you're struggling to get help that you need, um, you're not alone. Reach out and ask for help. Um, you can. There's a lot of different resources out there, and if I can help in any way, please let me know.
Awesome. Well, where can people find you on social media?
So on YouTube, you can find me at Roy Jones on Wheels. Again, Roy Jones on Wheels. Or on Facebook, you can find my official Facebook um, by searching Roy Jones or going to facebook.com / Roy Morak official. Now, Morak is my old last name. You can learn more about learn more about that on my YouTube channel. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, Roy, for wanting to be on Spastic Chatter. I really enjoyed speaking with you and getting to know you. If there's anyone out there who wants to be on Spastic Chatter, there you can comment or anywhere you see this video, and I will be willing to have anyone as a guest. So until again, thank you, Roy, and check back next week for another episode of Spastic Chatter.
thank you for having me.